Welcome to English Chapter. Today, you're about to discover the story of a boy who didn't fit in, didn't follow trends, and didn't stop thinking. The world didn't see him coming, but he saw everything coming. The story of Jeff Bezos doesn't begin in a boardroom or a rocket ship or even inside a garage. It begins with a young boy quietly reading on the floor of a dusty public library. While other kids chased each other outside, Jeff sat still, flipping page after page, absorbing everything, from science fiction to biographies to encyclopedics. He wasn't looking for entertainment. He was looking for understanding. Because Jeff Bezos wasn't just curious, he was hungry. Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen was born on January 12, 1964 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His mother, Jackie, was only 17 years old, still in high school, still figuring out her own life, and now she had a baby in her arms. People whispered, "A teenage mom raising a child alone? It won't work." But Jackie didn't listen. She worked. She studied. She sacrificed. She brought Jeff to night classes, changed his diapers between textbooks, and made one decision early on. No matter what, my son will have every chance to succeed. It wasn't easy, but it was love. And it laid the foundation for everything that came next. When Jeff was 4, Jackie married a man named Miguel Mike Bezos. He was an immigrant from Cuba. He had arrived in the U.S. alone at age 16 with no money, no English, and no family. Just a determination to survive. Mike adopted Jeff and gave him his name, Bezos. He raised him as his own, taught him the value of grit, work, and self-respect. Jeff would later say, "My dad came to America with courage and nothing else. He built everything. That made me believe I could too." That immigrant fire lived inside Jeff from the start. By the time he was 6, Jeff was opening screwdrivers instead of toys. He didn't care how fun something was, he cared how it worked. He tore apart his crib. He built a homemade alarm system to keep his siblings out of his room. He tried to make a solar-powered cooker out of tinfoil and a pizza box. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He just had to know. This obsession with systems, cause and effect, creation, it never left him. He once told his grandfather, "One day, I'm going to build something that changes the world." His grandfather laughed. But Jeff wasn't joking. Every summer, Jeff would go to his grandparents' ranch in Texas. It was hot, isolated, brutal work. No TV, no distractions, just fencing, tractors, animals, and endless land. His grandfather, a retired atomic energy expert, taught Jeff how to fix machines, castrate cattle, and think independently. There were no shortcuts. If something broke, you fixed it. If you made a mistake, you owned it. Jeff later said those summers made him who he was. Because out there, miles from comfort, he learned how to solve problems, no matter what. Back in school, Jeff didn't blend in. He wasn't the class clown. He wasn't the athlete. He wasn't even trying to be liked. He was trying to build a space station. At 12, he read biographies of Einstein and books on interstellar travel. He got straight A's, took advanced math, wrote computer programs when most kids didn't even own calculators. Teachers saw something rare, but some classmates rolled their eyes. He was too serious, too intense, too much. But Jeff didn't care, because he didn't want attention. He wanted altitude. Jeff's first love wasn't business. It was space. He wanted to build rockets, colonize the moon, make humanity a multi-planet species. While kids his age drew spaceships, Jeff calculated thrust ratios. Years later, That obsession would become Blue Origin, but the seed was planted right there, in the notebook of a quiet teenager with a galaxy in his head. In high school, Jeff wasn't just smart, he was unstoppable. He launched a summer science camp for younger kids and called it the Dream Institute. He taught them about black holes and artificial intelligence. He also worked part-time at McDonald's, not because he had to, but because he wanted to understand how fast food operated. He studied how systems worked. Even at 16, he saw everything as an ecosystem, fixable, scalable, improvable. And he was already dreaming of a company that would one day sell everything. Jeff graduated valedictorian and headed to Princeton University, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. At first, he planned to study physics, but he soon realized he was more interested in building than theorizing. He switched to computer science and electrical engineering and dominated. Professors said his brain was formidable, but what set him apart wasn't IQ, it was application. Jeff didn't just learn, he executed. By the time he was 21, Jeff Bezos had built a personal network of mentors and peers from top tech firms, read hundreds of books on business, systems theory, and space, studied the early movements of the internet, interned at top companies, and turned heads everywhere he went. He was quiet but calculating, ambitious but patient, intense, but always thinking 10 steps ahead. Nobody knew yet, but the world was about to meet a storm dressed as a nerd. This wasn't luck, this wasn't privilege, this was focus. Jeff Bezos had spent his entire childhood preparing, not for money, not for fame, but for impact. And that impact? It would start with a decision that would shock everyone. He would walk away from a safe, high-paying job and chase a crazy idea, an online bookstore. At first, Jeff wanted to study physics. He loved the elegance of equations, the power of logic, the beauty of space and time. But something wasn't clicking. He realized that he might never be Einstein, and more importantly, he didn't want to be. Because physics explained the universe, but Jeff wanted to build something inside it. So he made a bold shift. He changed his major to computer science and electrical engineering, not because it was easier, because it was useful. He didn't want to memorize laws. He wanted to write new ones. Jeff threw himself into learning. He studied coding, system design, algorithms. He wasn't just solving problems. He was seeing patterns. He looked at the early days of the internet and said, "This is going to change everything. I don't know how yet, but I want to be ready." At a time when most people saw the web as a toy, Jeff saw it as infrastructure. He imagined companies, schools, governments. It was still just a dream. But in Jeff's mind, the future had already begun. Bezos was different from his classmates. While they studied for exams, he built side projects. While they partied on weekends, he optimized code. He was intense, sometimes too intense. But that intensity wasn't ego. It was vision. He once said, "I knew if I was going to do something that mattered, I couldn't just be good. I had to be obsessed." It wasn't about being the smartest person in the room. It was about being the one who stayed until the lights went out. In 1986, Jeff graduated from Princeton with honors. Companies lined up to hire him. He could have worked at IBM. He could have become a professor. He could have built someone else's dream. Instead, he took a job at a startup called Vital, working on building networks for international trade. It wasn't glamorous, but it taught him speed, scale, global thinking. And more importantly, it confirmed something he already suspected. The world was about to change fast, and only the bold would keep up. Soon after, Jeff jumped into the world of finance. He worked at Bankers Trust and then at a hedge fund called D.E. Shaw. He was in his 20s, wearing suits, running simulations, building models, analyzing risk, and he was brilliant at it. By age 28, he became the youngest senior vice president in the company's history. Big money, big office, big future. But deep inside, Jeff was restless. Because every day he stared at a screen filled with numbers. He kept thinking about something bigger: the internet. In 1994, Jeff read a statistic that would change his life. The internet was growing at 2,300% per year. He read it once, then again, then again. That number wouldn't leave his mind. It wasn't just growth, it was explosion. It was a signal. And to Jeff, signals were everything. He started researching. What were people doing online? What could be sold online? What would scale? He created a list of 20 possible online businesses. One stood out: books. Books were perfect. Millions of titles. No physical store could hold them all. But a website could, and Bezos understood. He wasn't just building a bookstore. He was building a system. One that could eventually sell anything. He called it a regret minimization framework. If he stayed at his job, he might be comfortable. But if he didn't chase this idea, he would regret it for the rest of his life. He told his boss he was quitting. His boss was shocked. Jeff was one of their best. "You're making a big mistake," they said. But Jeff didn't flinch. He packed his bags, said goodbye to Wall Street, and drove across the country with his wife, Mackenzie, in a beat-up car, writing his business plan on a laptop while she drove. They were headed to Seattle. No investors, no safety net, no guarantees. Just a vision, a laptop, and a belief that the internet would change the world. Jeff moved into a small house, set up a desk using a door and some 4x4s, and started writing code for what would become Amazon. Not a bookstore, not even a company, but a launchpad. Because Bezos wasn't thinking about profits, he was thinking about platforms. He knew books were just the beginning. He said, "Our vision is to become the Earth's most customer-centric company." People laughed. But Jeff, he just kept building. Jeff Bezos was living the dream, at least on paper. Senior vice president at D.E. Shaw. Manhattan skyline outside his office. A massive salary, bright future, sharp suits, and people who respected him. He had made it. But deep inside, he felt like he was wasting time. Because every day, his brain kept whispering, "You're not building anything real." Sod. It started with that one statistic: 2,300% growth per year. That's how fast the internet was expanding. It wasn't just rising, it was erupting. Jeff read everything he could. He saw that e-commerce wasn't just coming, it was inevitable. And once again, his brain lit up like a switchboard. He started sketching ideas. Online clothing, online toys, online tools. But one category stood out: books. Books weren't emotional. They were logical. There were millions of titles. No physical store could stock them all. But a digital shelf? Unlimited. They didn't spoil. They were lightweight. And readers were early adopters of technology. It was the perfect starting point. And Bezos wasn't thinking small. He wasn't starting a bookstore. He was building the foundation for the everything store. But to do that, he had to let go of everything safe. Jeff thought deeply. He wasn't reckless. He was calculated. He created a mental model. When I'm 80, will I regret not doing this? And the answer, yes, deeply. So he walked into his boss's office. His boss didn't laugh. He didn't yell. He listened, and then said something Jeff would never forget. "This is a good idea, but for someone who doesn't already have a good job." It was fair advice, logical, but Jeff wasn't chasing logic anymore. He was chasing leverage. He quit. In the summer of 1994, Jeff and his wife Mackenzie packed their car and drove from New York to Seattle. While she drove, he typed. His laptop balanced on his knees. They talked about servers, shipping, and scale. They dreamed, doubted, redreamed. They didn't have funding. They didn't have guarantees. Just an idea, a roadmap, and an unstoppable belief in what the internet could become. They rented a small house in Bellevue, Washington. The office, a garage. The desk, a wooden door with 4 legs. No heater, no windows, no budget for furniture. But the ambition? Massive. Jeff hired 2 programmers. They worked 12 to 14 hours a day, writing code, testing systems, crashing servers, fixing bugs. Every day, Jeff reminded them, "This has to scale. We're not building for now, we're building for millions." At night, he read customer feedback, fixed typos, rewrote product descriptions. It wasn't glamorous, it was grit. Jeff wanted the name to feel global. He chose Amazon, after the largest river in the world, a place of endless depth and possibility. He imagined the logo, the tone, the culture. He wanted a company that would deliver everything, obsess over customers, innovate constantly, never settle. And from day one, he told every employee, "Your job is not to make money. Your job is to make the customer happy." On July 16th, 1995, Amazon.com went live. At first, Jeff's bell rang every time someone placed an order. Within days, it was ringing non-stop. They had customers from all 50 states and 45 countries in just a few weeks. It wasn't perfect. Orders got delayed. Warehouses got backed up. Books got miscategorized. But Jeff didn't panic. He saw mistakes as data, frustration as feedback, chaos as momentum. He said, "This isn't the final version. This is version 1. Let's get to version 100. Amazon didn't make money, not for a long time. They reinvested everything into better software, more warehouses, faster shipping. Investors were confused. "How long until you're profitable?" they asked. Jeff smiled and said, "As long as it takes." Because he wasn't building a store, he was building infrastructure. He wanted Amazon to be the rails of the internet, the trusted bridge between humans and digital commerce. That kind of trust, it takes time. Jeff answered customer emails himself. He personally escalated complaints. He held weekly meetings focused only on customer satisfaction. He didn't just care, he obsessed. He believed that if you make your customers love you, they'll never leave. It became a core Amazon principle. Start with the customer and work backward. That mindset, it's now taught at business schools around the world. But back then, it was revolutionary. As Amazon grew, so did the pressure. Competitors launched rival platforms. The media questioned his business model. Employees burned out. People said he was too intense, too robotic, too demanding. But Jeff didn't flinch. He wasn't trying to win the moment. He was trying to win the era. He once told his team, "If you want to be understood, don't do anything new." And Jeff? He was only interested in the new. By the end of 1996, Amazon had tens of thousands of customers. In 1997, Jeff took the company public. It was a massive risk. If the stock failed, Amazon could die overnight. But he believed people weren't investing in a bookstore. They were investing in a revolution. Amazon's IPO raised $54 million. It gave Jeff the fuel he needed to grow. But it also gave him something else. A target. Wall Street wanted results, fast. And Jeff had to choose: grow slowly and stay safe, or move fast and risk everything. He didn't hesitate. He chose speed. By the end of the decade, Amazon wasn't just selling books. They were selling CDs, toys, electronics. They were reinventing online shopping. And Jeff Bezos? He was no longer the man who left Wall Street. He was the man who outbuilt it. But the next chapter would test everything. Because right around the corner, the dot-com bubble was about to burst. The bell wouldn't stop ringing. Every time someone placed an order on Amazon.com, a small bell would sound in Jeff's office. At first, it rang once a day. Then, once every hour. Then, every few seconds. It wasn't just noise. It was proof. People were buying books online from a tiny website, from a company no one had heard of just a month earlier. And Jeff Bezos? He wasn't smiling. He was thinking, this is working. And that means we have to move faster. The orders were piling up. Stacks of books covered every surface. Boxes lined the walls. Shipping labels were printed, cut, and stuck by hand. Jeff and his tiny team worked 12 to 16 hours a day. There were no days off, no weekends, no room to breathe. Mistakes happened. Inventory got mixed up. Packages were lost. But customers kept coming back because they felt something different. Amazon was personal. It was fast, and it actually worked. Jeff knew this pace couldn't last. So he started building systems, not just for today, but for the future. He created tracking tools, data logs, and order prediction models. He optimized search results, user experience, and fulfillment flow. Every problem? A puzzle. Every delay? A design flaw. Jeff didn't blame people. He blamed the process. He once told his team, if a process breaks, fix the process, not the person. That mindset became Amazon's secret weapon. Jeff didn't just hire engineers. He hired builders. He looked for people who could think in systems, tolerate chaos, and invent on the fly. One early interview question was, how many gas stations are there in the United States? It wasn't about the answer. It was about how you thought. Could you estimate? Could you reason through data? Could you stay calm under pressure? Amazon didn't want average. It wanted relentless minds. Jeff wrote the phrase, "It's still day one," in every letter to shareholders. Because to him, success wasn't a signal to relax. It was a reason to double down. Day one meant staying hungry, thinking like a startup, innovating before you're forced to. He even named one of Amazon's buildings Day One Tower. He said, Day two is stasis, then irrelevance, then painful decline, then death. So Amazon lived in Day One forever. By 1997, Amazon had over 1 million customers. That same year, they went public. The IPO gave them $54 million to expand. But Wall Street didn't understand the vision. They wanted profit, fast. Jeff wanted scale, faster. Investors said, "You're spending too much. You're burning cash. When will you make money?" Jeff smiled and said, "We're investing in the long term. If you're looking for short-term returns, don't buy our stock." It was bold. Some said reckless. But it was honest. And it attracted a special kind of investor, those who believed in the future. As the money came in, Jeff expanded. First CDs, then DVDs, then toys, games, electronics, and tools. Amazon was no longer just a bookstore. It was a marketplace, a place where anyone could find anything. And this shift changed everything. With more products came more complexity. Warehouses, called fulfillment centers, were popping up everywhere. Each one was massive. Each one was a maze of robots, employees, scanners, and timing systems. Jeff micromanaged the systems. He didn't just want fast delivery. He wanted predictive delivery. Amazon began tracking customer behavior with precision. What you searched, how long you looked, what you almost bought. And they used that data not just to sell more, but to serve better. But all that speed came at a cost. Some warehouses were disorganized. Returns piled up. Holiday seasons nearly broke the system. Jeff didn't hide the problems. He attacked them. He hired logistics experts, engineers, and ex-military strategists. He reinvented packaging. He redesigned supply chains. He doubled warehouse capacity in less than a year. He didn't ask if it was possible. He just said, it has to be done. Big names like Barnes & Noble started to copy Amazon's model. They launched their own online stores, hired tech teams, cut prices. One executive even said, "We're going to crush Amazon. They're just a website." Jeff responded by doing what no one expected. He partnered with them. He invited third-party sellers onto Amazon, even competitors. He said, "If we don't do this, someone else will." It was risky, but it worked. Amazon grew faster than ever. By 1999, Amazon had become the internet's shopping mall. And Jeff? He was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But even then, he warned, we're not a success story. We're a story in progress. By 2021, Jeff Bezos had built one of the most powerful companies in human history. Amazon delivered to over 100 countries. It sold everything from books to groceries, cloud storage to original movies. It had changed how the world worked. And then, Jeff stepped down. He walked away from the CEO seat, not in failure, not in defeat, but with intention. I want to focus on innovation, philanthropy, and space. The man who had once obsessed over book shipments now had his eyes on the stars, literally. Back when he was a child, Jeff told people he wanted to build space hotels and colonies. People laughed. But in 2000, he quietly founded Blue Origin. For years, it stayed in the shadows. No press, no noise, just development. Then came the rockets, reusable, quiet, elegant, different from SpaceX, not about war or race, but about long-term survival. Jeff believed that in the future, millions of people would live and work in space. We have to go to space to save Earth, he said. We can't stay here forever. People rolled their eyes. But Jeff had heard that before. With Amazon behind him, Bezos began focusing more on giving back. He launched the Bezos Earth Fund, committing $10 billion to climate change solutions. He donated to education, science, medical research. He funded food banks, innovation labs, and journalism projects. It wasn't loud. It wasn't always clear, but it was real. Some still criticized him for not doing enough. Others praised his vision. But Jeff never replied to praise or hate. He just moved forward. Quietly, focused. Jeff Bezos didn't believe in luck. He believed in systems, in long-term thinking, in relentless execution. He often said, if you double the number of experiments you do per year, you're going to double your inventiveness. He encouraged risk. He tolerated failure, but he demanded learning. He wanted people to move fast, break things, and get better every single time. His philosophy wasn't sexy. It wasn't romantic. It was simple. Work, build. Think long-term. Obsess over the customer. But no legacy is perfect. Amazon faced criticism over warehouse conditions, worker surveillance, and tax structures. People questioned his wealth, his power, and the size of his influence. And the truth is, some of it was fair. Some of it was exaggerated. But none of it changed this. Jeff Bezos reshaped global commerce. He built a system used by billions, and he did it from nothing. Today, Amazon operates without him, but his fingerprints are everywhere. In the speed of your delivery, in the way you shop, in how cloud computing powers the world, in the expectation of customer-first service. That's the thing about great builders. They disappear, but their systems remain, forever. Not just a company, not just rockets, not just wealth, but an idea. That comfort kills innovation, that you must take risks before you're ready, and that greatness lives on the edge of what if. And now, the story ends. But maybe your story is just beginning. If Jeff Bezos taught us anything, it's this. Start small, think big, move fast, and never ever settle. If this series inspired you, like the video, subscribe to English Chapter, and share it with someone chasing a big dream. This isn't just English practice, it's mindset practice. Your future is waiting. Go build it.